If you grew up as a baseball fan, you can probably still hear a voice in your head, the voice of the hometown broadcaster. Commentator Frank Deford recently learned of the death of his favorite.
I can still hear his deep, resonant voice in my mind because it was the voice of summer, of good times, of baseball, of hometown.
Well, the bases are loaded, one out, and this ballpark's really coming to life as Ossie delivers to May. Fly ball, well hit, deep left field, it is going, gone!
That voice in my mind belongs to Chuck Thompson. He's in the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown, but probably you've never heard his voice. That's because I happened to grow up in Baltimore, and Chuck was strictly Baltimore's voice. That was the voice I heard for so long, pretending to be asleep in my room, the radio under the covers, or driving, or sitting on the beach, down the ocean, as we would say it. So Chuck Thompson was my voice. But you might have had one, too. So many cities had their voices. Red Barber, the old redhead in Brooklyn, Bob Prince in Pittsburgh, Jack Brickhouse in Chicago, then Harry Carey, Ernie Harwell in Detroit, By Sam in Philadelphia, Mel Allen in New York, Jack Buck in St. Louis. When we heard these men speaking, it was as much the sound of summer as crickets or the good humor man's bell or the clackety-clack of lawnmowers. Vin Scully is still working in L.A. and Bob Uecker in Milwaukee, but most cities don't have their voices like they used to. Voices move around nowadays almost as much as ball players. And, of course, with television, voices don't count as much. Television announcers are more like flight attendants, just buckling us up for the ride. Chuck and his radio colleagues were our pilots, our guides. As the old phrase so perfectly put it, they would bring you the game. And, of course, baseball is different from other sports. Calling a football or basketball or hockey game is more like being an auctioneer. Baseball is for storytellers. Like the summer, a baseball radio broadcast is soft and slow and languid. It's a chat full of rich anecdotes and tall tales and sweet memories. And, of course, to be a hometown's voice, you have to be friendly. You can't be smarty pants. After all, baseball is every day. All the best old announcers had their own idiosyncrasies, which would, of course, annoy the local fuss budgets. Chuck, for example, often spoke his sentences backwards. Bats from the left side, does Boog Powell. Great range has Paul Blair. When something especially good happened, he was wont to say, "Ain't the beer cold?" or "Go to war, Miss Agnes." Chuck Thompson died last week, age 83. It had been a while since he'd called games, for he'd gone blind. But I remember him so well, just as I'm sure you remember the voice in your hometown. No wonder we still hear them bringing us the game. After all, only too often, somehow the games we heard from their lips were better than the games we saw with our own eyes.
And now this is Chuck Thompson for Bill O'Donnell and Charlie Ekman saying, "Ain't the beer cold, baby?"
That's Chuck Thompson, and before that, a voice that we've come to know, Frank Deford, senior contributing writer at Sports Illustrated. He joins us each Wednesday from member station WSHU in Fairfield, Connecticut.